ComicFury, a website I have become recently familiar with when covering the webcomics iceberg. When I think webcomics, my mind immediately goes to sites like Tapas and Webtoon, the most popular platforms. There are, of course, dedicated websites for singular comics, especially due to content restrictions of the aforementioned websites. If you dare draw a single nipple, you are banned. Now, ComicFury, on the other hand, doesn't have content restrictions. Anyone can upload anything. It is completely funded through Patreon, has no ads, and does not shy away from allowing more mature and degenerate stories. I've even uploaded my own comic there myself. I would complain about the click-through format, but I found out that there is, in fact, an infinite scroll option as well. Awesome. There are also forums too, which is really cool, a place where webcomic creators can not only advertise their series, but just chat, talk shop, that's cool. Now, I haven't much engaged with ComicFury since uploading Doomsayer there, and I feel like I'm not doing my part to uplift the webcomic community with this audience I have. Sure, not a huge audience, but a decent chunk nonetheless. Subscribe. Do it. Do it now. So, there's a cool feature on ComicFury's website called Random. You hit the button, it shows you a bunch of random comics. Every single website with user-generated content should have this feature, as well as streaming services. Please implement this everywhere, developers. Please. Anyway, let's spin the wheel and begin the episode. Welcome to ComicFury Roulette, Episode 1. Now, just a brief aside before we begin, what are the rules of this game? It has to have 24 comics or more on the little counter there, because they call pages comics here. I guess that applies if they're each self-contained short strips, but a lot of these are ongoing series, so can I really review something that just started and only has like 1 to 2 pages, So we're gonna go with 24 pages because that's sort of the average of a single printed comic book issue, at least here in the United States. I do know sometimes they go higher, a lot do hit like 32, but 24 seems like the good, Goldilocks zone. So, them's the rules, let's spin the wheel. Ghostwriter Apocryphal. Alright, this one is by Nor5tar, or I guess Norstar is what I'll call her for the remainder of the review. Lead Speak in 2025. Awesome, that's a throwback. Anyway, let's get into it, and I like this one. So, this is a story about a Mythian-human hybrid. The Mythians are these observers that ghostwrite legends, hence the ghostwriter in the title. Our protagonist, Katja, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is observing a quest on his duty as a Mythian. Due to being half-human, he lets his emotions get the better of him and tries to intervene when the entire party gets killed. I really do like how there was a bit of a build-up to the slaughter of these characters, and they had a little bit of development beforehand. Really makes the impact of their deaths hit that much harder. I was thinking they were going to be the main cast, but nope, dead by the end of the prologue. Kasha, of course, for intervening, is then banished from Iselstar, the world of the Mythians, for violating the rules. The Mythians are meant only to observe, not intervene. There's also some hints that some event from his past caused him trauma and gives him nightmares. That hasn't been elaborated on yet so far in the story. He's then sent to a new world where he retains some of his Mythian powers. So, we got an isekai. Katja tries to adapt to life in this new world and find out its rules and customs, and the story's been on hiatus since December 2024. The art is a little rough around the edges, but I like it. It has a certain charm to it. The colors are fantastic, though. I really do like the colors. The layout could use a bit of improvement, but it never felt hard to read. It's also presented in these long vertical strips rather than pages, which at first had me mildly annoyed. I'm not a big fan of that formatting, but I got used to it. The font choice is a little bland, looking like either Arial or Helvetica to me. It kind of clashes with the fantastical setting. I get that it's really easy to read and that's why those fonts are used so much, but I could use just a little bit of stylization as well as the word balloons themselves. The stark contrast between the white balloons and the color backgrounds is a bit much, especially in darker scenes. Maybe colored balloons would make them a bit more harmonious, All critiques aside, I found the story engaging, and I would like to see what Katja does next. I should note that while I do these comic reviews as honestly as possible, I never try to put them down or anything like that. Aside from my other comic review series, Infamous Webcomics, where I review the most notorious webcomics on the internet, be that due to their quality or their creators. The main thing I really want to do here is A, perhaps introduce viewers to something they may love, whether I do or not. B, provide some constructive critique as a reader if the creator comes across these videos. I know I love feedback on my stuff. And I know some of you may say it's unsolicited, but if you put something out in public, you're open to scrutiny. That's just how the world works. I mean, how many bad movie reviews are there on this very platform? I don't think those directors ever said, like, please make a video tearing my movie apart. But I'm not trying to tear anything apart here. I'm just trying to do some general feedback reviews here. And hey, you guys are always welcome to review my terrible webcomic on your channels. And C, I just want to explore the depths of the webcomic world, which I haven't really done since starting these YouTube videos, you know? I really did like this one, though. I liked it a lot, actually. It got better as it went on. But it could use a little bit of refinement, especially in character scaling, because some of these dudes look like giants when they're not supposed to be. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 so far, and look forward to more. I hit the subscribe button on that one. But there's definitely room for improvement. Next Dead. Oh, wow. I always love when the creators mess around with the code a little bit and give their comic page a bit of life. I would do this myself for my own comic hosted on this site, but I seriously can't code for shit. I really do like that ComicFury lets you do that if you wanted to. Anyway, I applaud the aesthetics. Looks like we got a horror here. Cool, I like horror, let's get into it. And after reading the exactly 24 pages of this comic, well, it's got some issues, but it's got a lot of heart, you know? Very inspired by anime for sure. It takes place in a school where a bunch of zombies invade, and that's it, because this comic hasn't been updated since 2017. I'm under the impression that English isn't the creator's first language, since there are some grammatical errors that can only be attributed to that. Like, you know, I can understand what the characters are saying, but like, no native English speaker would say it that way. The art is definitely weeby, for lack of a better phrase, but it's not bad. There are some times when the anatomy looks a little bit janky, but characters read from panel to panel. Not to mention the layout is pretty competent and solid. We're not looking at like Toriyama level composition and layout, but it does what it's supposed to do. I never felt lost or not knowing what to read next. And the text never felt like too much, although I'm not the biggest fan of the font. Although I guess Seko, the creator, was going for a spooky font for this horror story, it just, I don't know, I don't really like the font. But you know what, that's more like personal preference, that's not really a critique. I guess it fits. So, as for a summary, some dude dies at the start, and since this story hasn't been updated in nearly a decade, we never see the significance in this. We have this character Jess, who I guess is the protagonist. Her mom's the police chief that's been missing. Jess has a weird relationship with her gym teacher, or the school doctor. I'm actually a bit confused about this because we start in a school, but then it looks like we're in a hospital. This brings one issue with the flow of the story, and that's the lack of establishing shots. We gotta know where we are, buddy. You know, you need your establishing shots. I hate drawing architecture too, but like, you gotta like, where are we, you know? It's implied that there's some kind of inappropriate relationship between Jess and her gym teacher. Oh boy. But then in the next panel, he's with the school nurse, so I guess that was squashed immediately. Good job. That would have been a big yikes. Anyway, somebody comes in with a wounded person, and then there's a scene of the girls' locker room. In this, I think it's a high school, so I don't know about that, buddy. Jess gets into a fight with the bitchy girl of the school. Then some boys run in because terrorists and zombies, I guess. Then we cut to another character who kills the first zombie, and we are left irresolute as this never got a chapter 2. I mean, I thought it was alright. Definitely had a few too many anime-ish tropes to it. Like, while I do enjoy anime, you know, I'm a bit of a weeb myself. Some of its tropes are kind of annoying to see, honestly. It's always a breath of fresh air to see one where, like, I don't know, like a girl touches the protagonist and the protagonist doesn't have a shit fit, you know? I hate that one the most. We got the classic, you know, trope here. Boys peeping on the girls trope, you know that one? Fucking spare me. It's like, it's never funny. It's always padding, and it, like, has no significance to the plot, you know? And, like, I'm pro fan service, honestly. Have you read my comic? It's just like, I don't know, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've seen this a million times already. Can we just move on with the fucking story? You know? Anyway, back to the script. Overall, this definitely had a lot of heart to it. You know, wish Seko would have done a chapter 2, but as it stands, the project appears abandoned. I'd give it 6 out of 10, maybe 6.5 out of 10. But if there was more to it and we actually found out who the dude that died on the first page was, there's potential for improvement. I didn't entirely hate it. I didn't love it either. But, it is what it is. We're going to move on to the next one. Journey. This one is by the team of Jamila Bella Caraballo and Devin Osborne. And I wasn't really feeling this one. I mean, there's barely any dialogue, which usually I kind of like that, but in this world where there's this mythical beast called a Valen Shifter exists, a bit of exposition feels kind of necessary. The art is really pretty, especially the backgrounds. I do think the human characters could use a bit of refinement, but stylistically for this story, I think it's just fine, So this guy Alex comes across the beast creature who later shifts into a humanoid form named Ari, and they go off on a journey. Just like the title implies. There's some hints that Alex might have something haunting him from his past related to his family, but there's not much to it, at least not yet. I didn't entirely hate it, but I feel like I'm outside of the target demographic because when the characters do interact, aside from just flying out on a journey, said it again, it feels very yaoi coded, which is fine if that's what you're looking for, but it's just not my cup of tea. Again, the artwork's really nice. There's only 2 chapters so far, and this one's newer, but there's potential for this series. I'm actually going to skip the rating for this one because I honestly feel like probably being outside of the target demo squandered my ability to give it a chance. It's like if I reviewed a Nintendo fan comic. I'm going to hate it on principle of being made by a Nintendo fan. There we go. We fulfilled the quota of John hating Nintendo in a video. Yes. Anyway, it was alright. I really did like the majority of the artwork, aside from the human characters, could use a little bit of work there, but the layout and the paneling was pretty well done too. Although sometimes the image resolution would fluctuate, which was a little weird. I get that at some point sometimes resolutions change in long-running series, but the remainder usually goes on in the newer resolution. This one had some back and forth. I don't know what that was about. Maybe an export error. Again, I do give props to the art and the visual storytelling, but this one just isn't for me, Might be for you, though. Part of why I wanted to do this series was to take a look at the overlooked, underappreciated, and just obscured comics that you, dear viewer, might enjoy reading yourself. But yeah, Journey, it was alright. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this inaugural episode of ComicFury Roulette. Stay tuned for the next episode when I feel like making it. And hey, you know what? When we hit 15,000 subscribers, yeah, I'll start taking viewer-submitted comics for review. And I mean your webcomic, not your recommendations. Your comic. But we gotta hit that milestone. Probably gonna be a while, though, so subscribe. Now. Do it now. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.